Hey everyone, welcome to this video. In this one, we're going to do our final project. We're going to do a final practice and put some of the stuff that we've learned so far into use and create a really cool password generator. As always, the files are in the resources section. You can get the starter file, which is a very important one, and you can get the actual final file as well. I strongly recommend you to try to actually generate this and try to solve this problem before you look at the results or before you watch me actually write this program, because it's a very important one, and also it's going to help you to put a lot of concepts that you've been learning in this section so far to practice. So let's actually run this program. So the idea with this program is actually a very simple one, but the execution of it actually is something that requires some thinking. So what you're going to do is you're going to create a password generator program. And if I run this right now, this is how pretty much it looks like. So it's going to ask you, how many letters would you like in your password? I'm going to say 6, for example. How many symbols would you like in your password? I'm going to say 2. And how many numbers would you like in your password? I'm going to say 4. All right. So at the end, it's going to give me a password just like this. Now, based on what you've learned so far in this section, you can use all of this stuff to make this happen. For example, you can use the for loops, which is something we're going to use. And obviously, since we're dealing with randomizing and passwords, you definitely want to use the random function as well. And again, the original file, the starter file, is going to include all of that. Now, one of the things I want to mention about this one, which is a very special thing about this, is that there are 2 ways to actually complete this project, and one's the easy way and one's the hard way. And I'm going to actually do both of them so you can get it and you can actually understand it, because the easy way, and they do literally do the same thing, but the difference is that the hard way, the more complicated one, actually generates more random passwords, and you will see why. So again, take a look at the starter file and see what it has in it. So let's take a look at that real quick. So here's the starter file that you're going to be able to pull. That's, again, the first one in the resources section. So this includes everything you need to get started. So it's going to include the random module, right? And then it's going to include letters that you're going to be using in the password. It's going to include numbers and symbols. And as you see, if you pay attention, what we're really doing is that these letters are inside a list, right? And also numbers and symbols. And you can also add more if you want. That is up to you to make it even more random. But again, it's pretty simple. We got the print, welcome to the program, and then it's asking for how many letters and how many symbols and how many numbers. That's the input. And then we're turning that into an integer. Very simple. So that's what you have as a starter. And think about how you can actually randomize these values. All right. How can you actually randomize a specific amount of characters based on how many characters the user is requesting? And again, for this, you're going to be using the for loop, and also you're going to be using range, right? Because again, if you think about it, you're actually asking for the range here. How many letters, how long, right? The range of it. So something to remember. So give it a go and try to solve this. Again, based on what you've learned, it's not going to be that complicated. You just have to kind of think about it a little bit, and that's what the programming is really, right? So hopefully you can pause this video right now and start writing this. All right, so let's go ahead and actually make this. And as I said, I'm going to make the easy version first, and then we're going to go with the hard one after this. So here's what we're going to do. If you remember, when we were working with the for loops, and especially adding values using for loops, we would start with a 0 number. If you remember, in the previous practices, we started with a score, for example, and we had a 0 in it, and then we would add more as we would go through for loops, right? And this is pretty much how it goes with the passwords as well. So the only difference is that with the password, we're going to go with an empty string. There you go. So we got an empty string, and we're going to start adding more using the for loop, right? So if I go to the next line, again, we added, and this is going to be the easy version, and I'm going to tell you why. So take a look. For example, we're going to start with 4 and we're going to say char. Again, this is going to be like the character, right? The character that we're going to be choosing from these lists. All right. And we're going to start with the first one and we're going to say in range. And that's what, again, we're doing with we're using the range, right? Again, it's going to be 1. And the next one of them is going to be, for example, we're going to start with the letters. So I'm going to say user letters. So that would be the entry, right? Again, this is the number of letters that user is asking for. But if you remember something about ranges, you can remember that when we say, for example, 1 to 100, it is technically counting from 1 to 99. The 100 is not the actual correct one, right? So the number is not the actual end of it. So what we need to do to actually compensate for that is we're going to add it to 1. So just like that, I think we've done this before as well in the previous sections. We add a 1 to, like, compensate for the index. So just like that, we added, again, we say 1. And for example, if the user enters in this here, and here the user enters 4, it's going to be 1 to 3, but then we're going to add 1, make it a 4. So the range is going to be 1 to 4 letters. Very simple, right? So, and then we're going to use, and we're going to create another, and this is going to be the result of it, right? So we're going to say random, and we're going to say character equals random, and this is where we use the choice function. Okay, this is something that we talked about in the previous sections as well. So just like that, we actually made this. So take a look. Here's what we did. Actually, there you go. So what I did was I defined this random character and I just chose a random number in there, right? In the letter list, just like that. So we chose a random character or random characters inside the list letter. And here you go, we just got our random character. And next, what we're gonna do is, again, we're gonna go and say password plus equals random character. Let me just copy that to make my life easier. There you go. So if this is confusing you, think about it this way. So again, we started with a for loop and we defined a char, a character, right? And we said, look at this for loop in the range of 1 to the user entry. That's user entry, user letters, input plus 1, right? The user entry. And then we say, look at this. Now the random character equals, this is a variable we just defined. It said the random character equals random choice. Again, this is a method, right? In letters. So we just chose this. And again, with the idea with the range is that we're going through this 4 times, right? If again, this is a method, this is a loop, and we're going through it 4 times. 4 times we're going through this list and picking up a letter, right? And then we're just choosing a random character from that letter and adding it to this empty password string. Now, if I actually print this right now, let me show you what happened here. If I actually print this, and let's run this. So let's enter some numbers. So for example, would you like how many letters? I'm going to say 5. Let me just pull this up a little bit. 5, and then we're going to say 2 symbols and 2 of that. So what happened was that, take a look, we picked up 5 characters and just added them together in a range, just like that. Again, it is, I know it can be a little bit confusing, but we used for loop and everything to put them all together. So again, let me know if this is confusing to you. And one of the things that you can do actually to make this cleaner is actually use it, instead of writing these 2 letters, two lines, you can actually do it this way. You can actually say password equals or plus equals random choice letters. And again, I think this, in my opinion, makes it a little bit easy to understand. So we're saying that, get a random choice of the letters that we have here in this list. There you go. And add it to password string, which is empty at the moment. And we are all inside this for string. And we're doing this 4 times, right? Again, if it's a for loop and it said we're range of 4, that means that we're doing it 4 times. This program this thing is going to run 4 times, right? So we're going to run this 4 times. 4 times we're going to choose random letters and add it to the string, right? Again, I hope this is making sense. So we ran this program 4 times based on the user entry. We created a range, and 4 times we added a letter each time. Very simple, right? So just like that, we picked up 4 letters. Cool. Now all we got to do is just repeat the same process for the rest of them. So for the letters, we did this, and now we're going to do it for symbols and numbers. Very simple. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to copy and paste this because we don't want to like waste our time, going through this multiple times. So we're going to say numbers. We're going to pick up the numbers for this. There you go. And we're going to also pick up the numbers as well, or user entry numbers. That would be this one. Here we go. So again, that would be how many numbers users asking, and then we're gonna say add the random choice of numbers into the password string that we have here so far, or whatever we have so far after this, essentially. So just like that, we did the numbers, and let's do the final one, which is symbols. I'm gonna say user symbols. There you go. And let's go get the symbol list as well. Again, this is the random choice of symbols from this list. And just like that. So now if I actually look at the password, so let's print password. And let's print this, and let's take a look at it. So we're going to say again 5 letters, and symbols we're going to have, let's say 2 and 4 numbers. And just like that, we have the password. Now let's actually make this a little bit prettier. There you go. So just like that, we got our program. Very simple, right? There you go. Now if you pay attention, we got a problem here. So again, this is done, and this is the easy way, right? So we're done with this if you think about it. And if you did this already this way, you're good. You actually achieved the objective of this practice. That's great, But here's the problem. If you actually pay attention to the password, our password has a specific problem. And the problem is that it's adding these characters, the letters, numbers, and symbols in order. So if you take a look at this password, for example, we got our letters, and then we, again, 5 letters, we got 4 numbers, and then symbols. And this is a problem, because if a hacker knows, for example, that you're using this type of password, that would be a vulnerability. So how do we make it truly random? So that would be the harder version of this program. How do we really jumbo this up? How do we mix it all up together? So that would be the second version. So if you want, you can actually fork your own file and kind of have a second version of it saved up. But that is actually very simple if you think about it. You just have to actually use a really a specific method that I haven't actually talked about. I just want to introduce it to you to kind of make you more familiar with it. So the way you want to do this, if you think about it, is that you want to actually switch the password here from a simple string into a list. And the idea behind it is that think about it, we got a random choice letter, and we're adding it into a string. But if we actually save all of this information, right, into a string, into a list itself, we can randomize that list. How cool is that, right? So that's basically the idea of it. Let's actually get rid of our print real quick and think about this. Let me actually make it into a list. For example, we're going to go back to the password string, the empty one that we had in the beginning, and we're going to add this, turn this into a list, an empty list, right? So if I actually save this, okay, and if I save this, let's actually just do this and run this one more time. Again, we're going to say 4, 2, 4, and there you go. And actually we gotta print this. All right, All right, so if I print the password and run it one more time, take a look at what we get. We get a list. Now think about this. How do you actually turn this into a like a more randomized version? Now, one of the ways, again, this is something I haven't introduced you to yet, okay? One of the ways that you can do that, and it takes a little bit of Googling, and this is what I want you to do. I want you to think about this stuff because it's really important when you actually are programming. You don't want to always rely on your own knowledge. You want to like do a little bit of Google research as well, especially like, you know, on Google, you can actually, a lot of people ask these questions, you know. So for example, if you actually go how to randomize a list, Python. So let's do that real quick. Let's actually search it. And I'm pretty sure someone in the Stack Overflow is going to answer that. So let's take a look at this. Let's see what do we get. So a lot of people are saying, hey, so this is a list. I want to randomize this. So this person is saying from random import shuffle. There you go. So this person is actually using the shuffle method. And that is actually a pretty good idea. And that's what I want you to actually do. And this is even better. Take a look. Random shuffle. And this is what I want to talk about. Introduce you to the shuffle method. So the idea with the shuffle method is that you can easily shuffle values of a list using the shuffle function. And the way you do this is you say random. Again, we already imported a random function, or random a method, right? And we said random shuffle, just like that. And we're going to say password. And now, if I actually print this password, I don't know why I keep deleting the print statement here. Now, if I actually do this, take a look. Now it's all random. How awesome is that? You know, so now it's all random. It's just truly mixed up together, shuffled up. Now our password is more secure. Now all we got to do after this is to just turn it back into a string. So I'm going to say password. I'm going to make a new value called password a string and equals, and we're going to give it an empty, empty string. And then we're going to use, again, a for loop to turn it into a string. And the way you do this is you see for char. I'm just going to use a char again in password. And we're going to say password string plus equals char. So essentially, we're just grabbing every single character in this list, which is the password list. You know, we're grabbing every single character and adding it to this char, essentially, and adding it to this password string, just like that. You know, again, for loops, very simple, right? We're just grabbing every item, you know, using a for loop, grabbing every item in this list and adding it into this password string. Now, if I actually print this, I'm going to say print, let's make an F statement. All right. There you go. Your password is password string. Close it off. And just like that, and let's close it off, and let's actually make it a little bit bigger so we can actually see what's going on in our program. All right, let's clear this up. And if I run this again, how many letters? 5, 2 symbols, and 3 numbers. Now, if I take a look, there you go. This is our fully, really randomized password. 0FH, you know, percentage sign, all that. All of it mixed up. How cool is that? So just like that, we use the shuffle function to, to shuffle our list first, and then we used a for loop to turn the list into a string, and now we just display our string using an F string. Just like that, very simple. So guys, that's pretty much it. This is the more complicated version. I know this can be a little bit confusing, but again, you just have to kind of think about this stuff. And I just wanted to kind of do this because instead of talking about this before we get into this lesson, I wanted to do this right in front of you to present you the idea of, you know, researching for yourself a little bit on Stack Overflow and asking questions on internet, because that's really how you learn, and that's how I was able to learn a lot better as well. You know, you kind of get ideas from people as well, and like, you know, different ways that people think about the problem, and gives you a lot of good ideas sometimes. So it's a good idea to do that once in a while. So that's pretty much it. Let me know if you have any questions. As always, the finished file is also in the resources section. If you can take a look at it for yourself. Let me know if you need anything. Let me know if this was confusing to you. And one of the things that, you know, I feel like it helped me a lot was to just even like, if you didn't actually do this or didn't do it the hard way, one of the things that you could do is just go through the code real quick and think about it and take a look at it. And I'm sure it's not going to be that hard to understand it. But as always, you can ask me questions. Let me know if you have any questions. If not, I'll see you later on.